Today we've got a story for you about a rebellion, but this isn't a story about some giant army. Nope. This whole thing was kicked off by a single family who just refused to back down. A family who decided their faith was more important than the power of an entire empire.
So let's set the stage. We're in a time of serious oppression. There's this powerful king and he's laid down the law. You have to abandon your old ways, forget your own religion. It's a total collision course, you know? The full might of an empire versus the deeply held beliefs of a people.
And that really is the big question, isn't it? In a world where going along gets you rewarded and standing up gets you killed, what happens when one family, led by this old priest, just says no?
Okay, so let's meet the family at the center of this whole storm. We're talking about the house of Mattathias. He was a priest from Jerusalem, but he's living in this smaller town called Modin.
Right. These are the folks you need to know about. You've got the dad, Mattathias, and his 5 sons, Johanan, Simon, Judas, Eleazar, and Jonathan. Now, the one name you're really going to want to lock in is Judas, who is also called Maccabeus. His name, well, it's about to become a legend.
For Mattathias, this isn't some abstract political issue. It's personal. It's this deep, gut-wrenching grief. He's seeing his people's holy places being desecrated, his entire culture just being wiped out, and he's crying out in pure anguish. And that pain, that's the fuel for the fire that's about to be lit.
And now we get to see how all that grief just explodes into action. The spark comes when the king's officers show up right in Mattathias' hometown, Modin. And their job is simple: make people sacrifice to pagan gods. Enforce the king's new law, no matter what it takes. So, the officers go to Mattathias first. They see him as a leader, someone with influence. They offer him everything: money, status. They even call him a friend of the king. All he has to do is play along. But Mattathias, in a loud voice so everybody can hear him, makes his choice crystal clear. He will not abandon his covenant.
You can just imagine the tension. The air is still thick with Mattathias' defiant words, and then the unthinkable happens. Another man from his own community steps up. He's ready to do it, ready to obey the king and make the sacrifice. This is the moment of truth.
And Matthias' reaction is, wow, it's fast, it's total, and it is violent. The text says he was inflamed with zeal. He runs to the altar, kills the man who is about to sacrifice, then turns and kills the king's officer, and then just destroys the altar. In that single moment, a line was crossed. There is absolutely no going back. And he immediately turns this incredibly violent personal act into a public movement. He runs through the city shouting this. It's a call to arms for anyone who will listen. This isn't a private protest anymore. It's the start of a real rebellion. He and his sons take off for the mountains, and you know what? A lot of people follow them.
So now, they're hiding out in the wilderness, this new kind of ragtag group of rebels, and they are about to face their first major test. And it is a brutal one, a test that puts their most sacred beliefs up against their own survival.
The king's army finds a group of about 1,000 of them. They corner them, and then, in a really calculated and cruel move, they decide to attack on the Sabbath, the holy day of rest, when their own law forbids them from fighting. The soldiers give them a choice: come out, surrender, and you'll live. But the rebels' answer is just tragic. They refuse to fight back. They won't even throw a single stone to defend themselves. They choose their faith over their lives, basically saying they'd rather die in their innocency. And the result is devastating. 1,000 people, men, women, children, are all killed. And they never even raised a hand to stop it. Their strict loyalty to their law led them right into a massacre.
This catastrophe forces Mattathias and everyone who's left to ask a really tough question. I mean, their faith is what this is all about. It's their strength. But what good is it if it leads to your own extinction? They have to change something, or this whole rebellion is over before it even starts.
So, out of that horrible tragedy, they make a huge decision. They realize that their old way of thinking is just a path to getting wiped out. So the rebels get together and they make a new rule. A rule that's going to completely change this war.
And their new doctrine is a total game changer. It's pragmatic, it's powerful. From now on, survival comes first. If someone attacks them on the Sabbath, they're fighting back. Period. They will not let themselves be slaughtered like their brothers and sisters were.
Now, as his life is coming to an end, Mattathias, the man who started this whole fire, he gathers his 5 sons. He knows he's not going to live to see how this all plays out,
so he gives them his final instructions, basically a blueprint for how the rebellion should continue.
And this is so smart. He doesn't start with battle plans, he starts with history. He reminds them of their ancestors, Abraham, Joseph, David, Daniel. He's framing their fight as just the next chapter in this long, long story of faith against impossible odds. He's telling them, you are not alone in this. You are part of a legacy.
Then he gets down to business. He starts assigning roles based on who's good at what. Simon, he says, he's the wise one, a man of counsel. He'll be their advisor, their new father figure. But for the actual fighting, he turns to another son.
And this is the big moment. He points to Judas Maccabeus, the one who's been strong and mighty his whole life, and makes him their captain, their general. This is it. This is the official passing of the torch. Mattathias lit the match, but it's going to be Judas who carries the flame into battle.
And with that, his work is pretty much done. Sometime around 1660 BC, after he's blessed his sons and put the rebellion on its new path, Mattathias dies. He's buried back in his hometown of Modin, the very place where it all began with that one act of defiance, and all of Israel mourns for him.
So, Mattathias, the man who started it all, is gone. He was the moral outrage, the initial spark. But he left the rebellion in the hands of two very different leaders, Simon the strategist and Judas the warrior. The stage is set. But the real question, the critical question, is this: can these sons turn a revolt born from grief into a real war for independence?